Srimad Bhagavatam ki, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, 10th chapter. Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. And today's text 13. Chakshormilitam jena tasmai Shri Gurunama Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Bhutale Smarupakaramayan Bhakti-svapamtikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Deve Gurunami Gachanane Namaste Sashriyadai Vastratai Sitarane Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Eko nanatvam anvichan.
Eko nanatvam anvichan.
Eko nanatvam anvichan.
Eko nanatvam anvichan.
Yoga talpat samutita.
Yoga talpat samutita.
Yoga talpat samutita.
Yoga talpat samutita.
Viryam hiranmayam devo.
Viryam hiranmayam devo.
Viryam hiranmayam devo.
Viryam hiranmayam devo.
Mayaya vyasrijat tridha.
Maya vyasrijat tridha.
Mayaya vyasrijat tridha.
Maya vyasrijat tridha.
Eko nanatvam anvichan.
Eko nanatvam anvichan.
Yoga talpat samutita.
Yoga talpat samutita.
Viryam hiranmayam devo.
Viryam hiranmayam devo.
Mayaya vyasrijat tridha.
Maya vyasrijat tridha.
Eko nanatvam anvichan.
Eko nanatvam anvichan.
Yoga talpat samutita.
Yoga talpat samutita.
Viryam hiranmayam devo.
Viryam hiranmayam devo.
Mayaya vyasrijat tridha.
Maya vyasrijat tridha. Eko nanatvam avichan.
Eko nanatvam avichan.
Yoga talpat samutita.
Yoga talpat samutita.
Viryam hiranmayam devo.
Viryam hiranmayam devo.
Maya vyasrijat tridha.
Mayaya vyasrijat tridha. Eko nanatvam avichan.
Eko nanatvam avichan.
Yoga talpat samutita.
Yoga talpat samutita.
Viryam hiranmayam devo.
Viryam hiranmayam devo.
Maya vyasrijat tridha.
Maya vyasrijat tridha. samutita.
Viryam hiranmayam devo.
Viryam hiranmayam devo.
Mayaya vyasrajatridha.
Maya visrajatya.
Eko nanatvam anvichan.
Eko nanatvam anvechan.
Yogatapat samutita.
Samutita.
Viryam hiranmayam devo.
Viryam hiranmayam devo.
Mayaya vyasrajatridha.
Maya visrajatya.
Word for word synonyms. Please repeat. Eka. He, one alone.
One alone.
Nanatvam.
Nanatvam.
Varieties. Anvichan.
Anvichan.
So desiring.
So desiring.
Yoga talpat.
Yogapat.
From the bedstead of mystic slumber. Samutita. Thus generated. Viryam. The semina. Hiranmayam. Golden hue. Deva. The demigod. Mayaya. By the external energy. Yasrijat. Perfectly created. Tridha. In three features. Translation. The Lord, while lying on his bed of mystic slumber, generated the seminal symbol, golden in hue, through external energy out of his desire to manifest varieties of living entities from himself alone. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, 7, and 8, the creation and annihilation of the material world are stated as follows. Sarvabhutani Kaunteya Prakritim Yanti Mamikam Kalpakshaye Punastani Kalpado Visrajamyaham Prakritim Svam Avastabhya Visrajami Puna Bhutagramami Mam Kritsnam Avasham Prakritir Vashat. At the end of each millennium, the creative forces, namely the material nature and the living entities who struggle in the material nature, all merge together into the transcendental body of the Lord. And again, when the Lord desires to manifest them, all of them are again displayed by the Lord. The second verse. Therefore, the material nature is working under the control of the Lord. All of them under the agency of material nature and under the control of the Lord are thus repeatedly created and annihilated by the will of the Lord. So, like as we hear Prabhupada say so many times, everything, at least the initial seed description, is given by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita. You know, you see how in the Bhagavatam it's elaborated. It's so nice to just study Bhagavatam. I mean, both together, but the Lord is revealing the whole basis of his philosophical understanding of Gita. Srila Prabhupada continues, as such, before the creation or manifestation of the material cosmic world, the Lord exists as total energy, Maha Samashti, and thus desiring himself to be diffused to many, he extends himself further into multi-total energy, Samashti. So, Krishna says he's the source of all material and spiritual creations. So here we're seeing, and this whole chapter, we're seeing the detail about creation. understand. It's very wonderful how much is being explained. From the material energy, he further expands himself into individuals in 3 dimensions, namely Adhyatmic, Adidaivic, and Adibhotik, as explained before. And parentheses, Vyasti. So that means, okay, this is the creation. Does anyone remember those different classifications?
You're asking us?
Yes.
I was like,
I don't.
I didn't. Yeah, we've been hearing that the last
Back in
week.
verse 8, some things you have to hear several times. Back in verse 8, translation is, the individual person possessing different instruments of senses is called the Adhyatmic person. So that's us, material body and mind, conditioned soul, Adhyatmic person. And the individual controlling deity of the senses is called Adidaivic, the Devata. The embodiment seen on the eyeballs is called the Adibhotik person. So our perception of another living being, that living being is Adibhotik. So that's our perception of the other embodied being. I'll take it as man, animal. Okay. So he further expands himself into individuals in 3 dimensions, namely Adhyatmic, Adidaivic, and Adibhotik, as explained before. As such, the whole creation and the creative energies are non-different and different simultaneously. Because everything is an emanation from him, the Mahavishnu or Mahasamashti. Nothing of the cosmic energies is different from him. But all such expanded energies have specific functions and display as designed by the Lord, have specific functions and display as designed by the Lord, and therefore they are simultaneously different from the Lord. The living entities are also similar energy, marginal potency of the Lord, and thus they are simultaneously one with and different from him. So what is this philosophy termed? Achintya Beta Beta Tattva. So the truth is simultaneously and inconceivably one and different. Well, Chaitanya is giving us the highest perception of the reality, especially in the material world, becomes even more complicated because it's matter and spirit. And Jiva Goswami said there's no question of accepting God, or the Lord, unless we accept Achintya Shakti, inconceivable potencies. So we can hear it, but it's not fully conceivable. But nobody, there's really no other explanation. And we can see from spirit, from the Lord, material energy is coming. So last paragraph. At the stage of non-manifestation, the living energies remain potent in the Lord. And when they are let loose in the cosmic manifestation, they are exhibited differently in terms of different desires under the modes of nature. So from the desire of the living entity, he's awarded perfectly. The Lord is perfect, and so his arrangement, he perfectly gets the body to fulfill his desires. what he does, and we know it's a combination of what one desires and what one deserves. Sometimes we desire something, we just can't get it because we don't deserve it. If that's all controlled by pious and impious activities, therefore the Vedic knowledge, Vedic teachings are how to, even materially speaking, live a pious life, avoid sinful activities, impious activities, because they'll force us to accept a lower grade material condition, force us to accept so much suffering that we're not asking for. We don't ask for it, but we get it because of our deviation from the ideal spiritual position, which is only explained in devotional life, in the devotional connection with the Lord, because that's the pure life. The Vaishnava teachings is giving us what is the pure life, pure cooperation and only a desire. Anyavilashita shunyam jnana karmani anavritam anukulyena krishnano shilam. Only for the pleasure of Krishna and free from self-centered desire, selfish desire. And it's not a sham or a false, love in this world. Prabhupada said there's no love in this world because it's always all contaminated by our selfish desire. I want. I'll serve you if you serve me. There's conditions on everything here in the material world. So the Vedic culture and then ultimately Bhagavatam, Bhagavat philosophy and teaching is how to come to that purified stage where we're only acting for the pleasure of the Lord. And the purified devotee gets realization that that's his real satisfaction. So it's a lower thing to act for selfish desire out of engaging in sense gratification, which is the mode of material life here in this world. Okay. So I'll just repeat this sentence. At the stage of non-manifestation, the living energies remain potent in the Lord, and when they are let loose in the cosmic manifestation, they are exhibited differently in terms of different desires under the modes of nature. So programmed by the modes of nature. Krishna says everything, when one understands things about this material world, he knows only the modes of nature are acting. We think I'm the doer, right? Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha hankara vimudhatma partahamiti manite. The conditioned soul, the foolish conditioned soul thinks, I am the doer, but actually it's being programmed by the modes of nature. So we have to appreciate how we're being controlled. So it's either controlled by one of the three modes of nature, or being controlled by desires of the Lord or service of the Lord. And then we're actually a liberated soul. As Rupa Goswami has this verse that even one who acts body, mind, words for the service of the Lord is considered liberated even in this material body.
So can you say that again?
One who's acting for the service of the Lord, the verse, our Bhakti Shastris are very rich. Rupa Goswami's. But one who's acting body, mind, words for the service of the Lord is considered liberated even in this world, even in this body. So, liberated soul. The pure devotee who's acting in this way, he's liberated, he's worshipable. A very elevated devotee is, his body is put in samadhi, is considered the body is spiritualized. He has no taste for self-centered activities. He has no taste for sense gratification. It's a lower taste. Such differential manifestations of the living energies are conditional states of the living entities. So conditions. So conditioned by a different desire other than service to the Lord. The living entities, however, in the Sanatan, eternal manifestation, are unconditionally surrendered souls, and therefore they are not subject to the conditions of creation and annihilation. So this creation takes place by the glance of the Lord from his bedstead of mystic slumber, and thus all the universes and the Lord of the universe, Brahma, are again and again manifested and annihilated. In Bhagavad Gita, Bhutva Praliyate. So it's constantly creation and annihilation. Without the big picture, just see how much, especially in this Kali Yuga, society in general in such darkness because they're thinking this is all in all. They don't know it's just a little flash in our eternal existence. And they're trying to build some wonderful structure, make some wonderful arrangement, and it's very, with great difficulty, uber karma, to, enjoy and live peacefully, and, for themselves and their family, and for society, but it's all changed and gone, and we're gone, and they don't know where. So, missing the big picture that the material nature is constantly mutable, constantly changing. The living entity gets a body and then he's taken out of that body onto another situation. So, anyway, I've been touching on more, we've been hearing about how creation is going on very wonderfully through these verses, and it gets, I think, more technical now. Yeah. Then it gets really technical about how this develops from this, and this develops from this, senses develop from. So, but I think for the devotee, it's even more, okay, all right, the Lord's very wonderful, and he's creating like this and like that. And it's very wonderful because it satisfies our intelligence. We have Bhagavatam, it's like really nourishing our intelligence, so we're convinced. Prabhupada said, you read from the beginning to the end, you can know the Lord perfectly and be perfectly convinced. But Prabhupada's touching here on the why and how, back to the verse, I'll read again. The Lord, while lying on his bed of mystic slumber, generated the seminal symbol, golden in hue, through external energy, out of his desire to manifest varieties of living entities from himself alone. That's how the verse begins. Eko manatvam anvichan. He alone, one alone, is desiring, and manatvam is varieties. So people say, well, what's the purpose of this life? People get disillusioned after being disappointed with working hard their whole life, and what good is it? They're depressed and sometimes suicide. But the devotee knows that the why, and it means understanding Krishna's desire. Why the Lord? Some people say, oh, why does God put us in this place of suffering? He's supposed to be a good person, a loving person. And no, just out of our ignorance, of your ignorance, you're suffering. Because life after life, we engaged in very ignorant activities and going down, and so much suffering. But out of the Lord's desire, for his desire is for great variety. And what's his overwhelming desire based on? The emotion of real love. So we found a nice verse in the 10th canto, I think it's 13th chapter, and text 39, which is this pastime of Krishna and the cowherd boys. I think Brahma is stealing the cowherd boys. Anyway, I'll read the verse just so we get perspective. And this is about, anyway, Prabhupada brings up a term we'll explain and discuss. The verse is, Lord Baladev said, "Oh, Supreme Controller, these boys are not great demigods as I previously thought, nor are these calves great sages like Narada. Now I can see that you alone are manifesting yourself in all varieties of difference. Although one, you are existing in the different forms of the calves and boys. Please briefly explain this to me." Having thus been requested by Lord Baladev, Krishna explained the whole situation and Baladev understood it. So I'm skipping down to one paragraph. This is Prabhupada's purport. At first, Lord Balaram said, "I thought that these boys and calves were a display of the power of great sages like Narada, but now I see that all these boys and calves are you." After inquiring from Krishna, Lord Balaram understood that Krishna himself had become many. That the Lord can do this is stated in the Brahma Samhita, Advaitam Achyutam Anadyam Ananta Rupam, unlimited forms. Advaitam, Advaita means not two, just one. Advaitam, Achyutam, infallible. He can't be challenged, he can't be, he's not under anyone else's control. Anadim, and he's without beginning, he's beginningless. He has no cause. And then Anantarupam, unlimited forms. Although he is one, he can expand himself in so many forms. According to the Vedic version, Ekam Bahu Syam. This is the statement we talk about. He can expand himself into many thousands and millions, but still remain one. Achintya Veda Abhena Tattva. In that sense, everything is spiritual because everything is an expansion of Krishna. That is, everything is an expansion either of Krishna himself or of his potency. Because the potency is non-different from the potent. The potency and the potent are one. Shakti, Shakti Matur, Abheda. So Shakti means the potency, and Shakti Matur, or the Shaktiman, is the possessor of the potency. And Abheda, not different. This is real spiritual understanding. Like Prabhupada gives the example, the same energy that's coming through these electric cords can heat or can cool. You put it to a refrigerator or AC unit, it's cooling. You can put it to some electric heater, you burn the electric heater all winter, and you get, or electric stove, right? So that's an example. Okay, I'll stop there. So there's Eko, or Ekam Ahusham, that one has expanded into many. So why? So so the devotees can appreciate why, what is the purpose, and clearly see how living entities are missing the point, and therefore they're going through this creation and destruction again and again for millenniums, and then sometimes going back into the body of Mahavishnu and waiting billions and trillions of years, then coming out again. Okay, you get another chance. So Prabhupada said, finish your business in this lifetime, don't you get out. I think he was quoting Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Don't count on, for another lifetime, especially in Kali Yuga, you get distracted and go for uncountable times. So, everything is based on the Lord's desire. We're part of the Lord's desire for His enjoyment. One has become many for His enjoyment. So what is and Prabhupada gives that analogy also. So why do two persons come together, marry, and produce children? To increase their enjoyment, hopefully. A lot of times in Kali Yuga it's like increase their misery. And why is that? Because the Lord is overflowing with love, and He wants just to expand that. He's unlimited, His loving propensity is unlimited, and so He's just facilitating. It's not that He needs something, but just by nature, because of His prema, His love, He just wants to expand loving relationships. And so He has these uncountable living entities who are His parts and parcels. Mamavamso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. But mana shastani indriyani prakriti stani karshati. Karshati means struggling hard with the six senses and the mind in this world. So we're uselessly struggling because we're missing the point that we're meant for Krishna's pleasure. And if we cooperate and come to a state of yoga, bhakti yoga, and takes our mind and senses for His pleasure, then we start enjoying, even right now. It's the first symptom of pure devotional service, that we become free from all material suffering and anxieties. Not that it's gone, but we get this spiritual strength that it's just like a little fly or something, it's insignificant. And so, if we see properly that, the whole, and this is described as, this is called Shrishti Leela, Krishna's, or Mahavishnu, through Mahavishnu, Krishna's creating this whole material world, just to educate us. And a lot of times it's just the school of hard knocks. We have to suffer and then realize, we have to do this. And, become a religious person, believe in God, and we'll be saved. But no, Vedic knowledge is supposed to be extant. It's supposed to be prevalent, and therefore a culture that convinces people. You perform yajna, you worship the Lord, you engage in meditation on the Lord, and the mind becomes peaceful, enlivened, we get spiritual realization. We develop devotion, and it becomes fixed. That's the whole beginning of the second chapter of the Bhagavatam. Is that the devotional, explaining divinity and divine service. Very wonderful. Explaining how through devotional service we become free from the lower modes of nature, become happy, become fixed in irrevocable devotional service. And then back to Godhead. But the point is, this could be talked about a lot more, but just to be convinced that we're created, or we're, not that we're created, but we're the Lord's parts and parcels, and our purpose is to love Him. That's His desire, and that's why He's creating this whole thing. And that's ultimately the desire of I, the soul, to love Him, because then I will be completely fulfilled. And just see how the world is going on without that, and they're struggling hard with the senses and the mind. And then just dying and being reborn somewhere. And in this day and age, a lot of people are taking a lower birth. And we should feel very sad for that, for them. But that we appreciate our own good fortune, that we've come in touch with perfect knowledge and most attractive and merciful Lord, who simply, He's just looking for loving relationships. He's looking to expand those loving relationships. And we have the opportunity to be one of those fortunate persons. Enter into His circle of intimate servants, loving servants. And He has this unlimited desire to have relationships in so many ways. In friendship, servitude, parental, conjugal mood. So there's so many opportunities there. And according to as we become familiar with His world, His life, we naturally become attracted to one of those relationships. And by hearing more and more about that, and working on our own process of bhakti yoga, our own sadhana, becoming more and more purified, we become very fixed the possibility is that we completely revive our constitution, our relationship, our natural relationship with Him in this lifetime. And that's the completion of real liberation, as we were talking earlier. So, maybe we'll stop there and if any discussion or questions. Simple verse, I just wanted to make that one point. One has become many, and just see the amazing variety of material energy. And then there's unlimited living entities strewn throughout, and they have yet to establish their relationship with the Lord. And stated many times in the Bhagavad Gita, once going there, one never comes back here. So, Thakur has this song, Anadi Karma Pale, that the actions, the reactions to the karma, the living entity, are anadi. They're beginningless. We can't trace it back. This is also another inconceivable. We're coming from the Lord, we're coming from living entities, come out from Mahavishnu. Immature, but Krishna has this creation, and it has to be cultivated, because love is not forced. We have to become. Krishna's giving us plenty of room and learning space. Something like we're saying, a lot of it. It can be either educated or the school of hard knocks, just do it and suffer, and okay, I guess I made a mistake, let me try in a different way. But Krishna is revealing Himself through Vedic literatures, especially Srimad Bhagavatam. It says that, Brahma says that Vedeshu Durlabham Adurlabham. Very difficult to understand Krishna through all the Vedas, but coming in contact with a bhakta, a premi bhakta, and the person Bhagavat or the book Bhagavat, then we can get proper impression. We can actually be attracted to just get a little peek, see through that window into the spiritual world. Like, oh, this is wonderful, I want that. So therefore our desire, by the grace of the pure devotee and by the grace of the Bhagavatam, person Bhagavat, book Bhagavat, we can fix our desire on the completely transcendental personality of the Lord and wonderful activities that are going on in His world. Okay, any discussion?
It's amazing how fixed you are, like what you told me 2 days ago. We might have only 2 years to live. Let's go get some young ones. But you're building a house, and I'm like, never have heard anything like that. I'm like, I want to stay, I'm attached, I want to stay a little bit longer because I want to do so many things for Krishna, myself, whatever. But, and also another point you made just now, in this lifetime, if your body, mind, and words are totally in Krishna's service, you will be liberated. What do you mean by liberation? You don't have to attain liberation, or you automatically, if you leave your body doing this, you're totally liberated? How is that?
Liberation means that the consciousness, thus the desires, are purified, free from anything in this world. Rupa Goswami says, Anyavilashita shunyam, without any separate desires from bhakti, especially jnana, karma, adi, and avritam. Without any anukulyena, krishnanushilanam, only desiring for the krishnanushilanam means for the pleasure of Krishna. Bhakti or uttama, the highest. So, and then we just read a verse, a very famous verse here about Muktir hitpanita rupam svarupena vipastati. Just a few verses back. That mukti, text 6. Nirodho, anyway, I'll read the verse. The merging of the living entity along with this conditional living tendency with the mystic lying down of the Mahavishnu is called winding up of the cosmic manifestation. And here's your answer. Liberation is the permanent situation of the form of the living entity after he gives up the changeable, gross, and subtle material bodies. So a permanent situation, real liberation means to awaken our spiritual body. Then we don't. I mean, there's, liberation is kind of a generic term, and we can say there's different degrees of that. But muktir hitmanita rupam. Mukti, hitva, anyata, giving up otherwise, rupam, form, and svarupena, in constitutional form, avastati, permanent situation. So that's the real liberation. If we become fixed, attached to Krishna, in that progression, beginning with little faith, that's the progression. Adau shraddha tata sadhu sangha bhajana kriya nartha nivriti syat. And then there's, one becomes fixed, nishta. And then there's ruchi, taste. And then attachment, asakti. And then bhava, and then So at least we have to be nishta. Actually, I forgot who it was. Nishta and then ruchi. We have to come to the point of ruchi, where there's real taste. So like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, you can give up the lower taste by experiencing a higher taste. So unless we have that ruchi for Krishna, then, you're liberated, but then you can fall back. Great yogis fall. Even practicing devotees fall down, but that's also temporary. Once they've started, Krishna says that it's never lost. And Bhagavatam says, Prabhupada quotes a lot about these impersonalists that one can rise up to the impersonal, the Brahman effulgence, but because he's not doesn't have a relationship, there's a word in there, with the lotus-eyed Lord, he has to fall down. Comes back to this world and becomes a humanitarian, opens hospitals. Because he doesn't have that ruchi for Krishna, he doesn't have that, rasa, prema rasa, Krishna. So it's not permanent. So we want the permanent thing. So we're very fortunate. Lord Chaitanya is giving us the very simple process. We're actually worshiping Lord Chaitanya by hearing him. We're worshiping Krishna, who has come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's Krishna. He's not an avatar, as Indamikara was mentioning. He's avatari. So we're worshiping him by Sankirtan, whether it's Harinam or it's Bhagavat Katha. See, he gave Srimad Bhagavatam as the Amala Purana. And we should always discuss and conclude with how it's connecting us to the pure topics and activities of Krishna and his associates, because that's what we want. Okay, something else?
Forgive me if I'm not saying I don't have a tendency to talk very properly. What comes to my mind when you're talking about Krishna and expanding himself and all these things?